So I would say, we started phase 3 really on Tuesday, which is now the OTAs, and we've got good attendance. The guys have been here for most of the off season, and so the turnout's good. This will be day 3 of the OTAs, and first 2 days have been good. Obviously, we're in the beginning stages of it. There's a lot to clean up, but there again, it's to to work on what we do schematically, offense, defense, special teams, and then it's really just development. Working on skill and athletic development as it pertains to more of the finesse side of the game, I guess you'd say. So. And just see where we can get better. We're not out there long, but just enough to get some work and see if we can get a little bit better. That's what this is about. So the guys have been good. I would say this too, as it pertains to just some of our injured guys, because I know you're going to ask. So Akuda he's out there just doing some individual and some walkthrough. He's progressing. Jerry Jacobs is doing well. Jamison, it'll be the same answer as a week ago, so he's a week better, if that makes sense. And then Taylor Decker is just, we're kind of being smart with him, all good, but we're not going to have him practice, but he's been here. And then Romeo's progressing, so anyway, all good. Questions?
What's the value going into the second year for a player like Penny Sewell, who really had a remarkable rookie season, a lot of different things?
What's the value?
The value of it, yeah, just having a year behind him now.
Yeah, well, I think with any player, it's just the fact that he's banked that many reps and practice time reps, the level of competition that he's gone against, it's invaluable. And anybody will tell you in this league, you'll never make as big of a jump as you will year 1 to year 2. Doesn't mean you don't continue to get better, but year 1 to year 2 is the biggest you'll make in this league. So we anticipate that he will be better and get a little bit better, and he's already a pretty skillful athlete, pretty good player. But I know this, up to this point, he's been locked in, and you can see the confidence, and he's handling his business, which I appreciate. And really, I'd say this for the most part, for all those young guys, that class of guys last year, he, St. Brown, Levi, Leem, Barnes, Iffy, there is a level of confidence in those guys and kind of a business-like approach, which is impressive to see out of a bunch of young guys.
Just on the injuries with Jeff and Romeo specifically, since you're coming off Achilles, does that expect them ready at the beginning of training camp? Do you have any idea when I guess they'll play?
Not really. We'll see. To be honest with you, it's hard to put a timeline on that. Let's see what they look like when we get them in here to camp and see what this next month of recovery does for them and rehab. So make that assessment then.
Taylor left the last game of the season with an injury. Is that what's he doing?
I would say it's the same area, but it's not the same injury. So we're just being smart with it. If he had to play right now, he could play. So we're just being smart about it.
It's early, but Aiden Hutchinson, what's your read on him so far?
Yeah, there again, nothing that's been disappointing. I would just say he's trying to, like the rest of those guys, they're swimming a little bit, but yet his approach is everything we thought it would be. He's in the meeting rooms, he's attentive, he's wanting to learn, he's taking it all in, he's doing what's asked of him, and then it's trial by fire like the rest of them. I got to learn from my mistakes. So he's been all business.
With Hutchinson, obviously there's going to be an expectation for immediate contribution. Just what's the biggest learning curve for a player at that position? Is it physical? Is it schematic? What is going to be the hardest thing for him to adjust?
I think, yeah, it's a good question. I think some of it will be, I guess a little bit of both, but probably since you're asking that, it would be the physical part of it. It's just, man, adapting to the speed of the game, these types of tackles. Now, here, I've said this before, I think this is where I think Hutch is going to have a big advantage, is the fact that he's going to have to go against Sewell and Decker every day. I think that's huge. I think that'll play more into his development than a lot of other things. So, I feel like he's going to be going against quality tackles. So that in itself is, I think, really going to. I think it can excel his progression.
There's a lot of talk about, Aiden's strength, and the bench pressing and all that. There's weight room strength and there's functional strength as you apply it. Are you happy with his strength right now, where he is? I mean, where he is as a rookie entering the NFL? Or how far does he need to go to get to NFL man strength?
Yeah, I would say this. Yes, pleased. And that being said, man, he's got a long way to go. Like, he's got a ton of room to really even get more powerful, if you will. So his strength it's good enough to go out there and compete, no problems there. But yet, man, there's still a ton of meat on the bone with him, which is, I mean, that's pretty exciting. So, look, you can never tell for sure, but I would say this. It's one of the reasons why we wanted to pick this guy is his DNA says that he's going to do everything that he can to be successful, and he's got enough ability and enough strength. He certainly does to go out there and help us win some games. Now, when will that be? How fast will that be? I don't know. I know this. We're not going to put him out there until he's ready. I mean, we're not going to. He's going to have to show it to us, but we'll see how it goes. There again, we're day 2 in the OTAs, so.
We've heard sort of references to maybe more of an attacking style up front from this defense. Can you explain maybe what the philosophy behind some of those changes you guys are making?
Yeah, I just think more of it is it's just a little more, I call it much more hitting the blocks than it is. I don't want to say we were catching, but there was, and it wasn't 2-gap. We just were a little bit more play the line of scrimmage, where now we're really, we want to play more on their side of the line of scrimmage. That's the best way to describe it. Look, we still have all the front variations, all those things, but I think that'll be probably the biggest difference that anybody would notice is just the fact that we want to. Now we're not just like running through gaps and closing our eyes and stuff like that. We're not like that, but we are much more. Hit the blocks and play on their line of scrimmage, which is a little bit different than what we were last year. And I do think this will serve our front well. I think this will help Aleem. I think it'll help Levi. It'll help, really all those guys up front.
Staying with the defense, AG will be a head coach, before long. You went through that process with the NFL last week and the interview stuff as well. Just what sort of comfort level does it give you that he's back both, for you and for the defense going into year 2, I guess, even though you have some changes to that continuity?
It's huge. It's huge. I kind of said this. I probably didn't say it to you guys, but when all this was going on, and everything with New Orleans, because I thought that was he was going to be gone. I was going to be happy as hell for him. I would, but the thought of losing him is like, I just had this feeling of like I was going to be walking around without any pants on, So I would say that not having AG, there is a comfort level. So I think that pretty much says it all. I really did. Look, I have a tremendous amount of trust and confidence in AG. I just do, and he is more than worthy of being a head coach. He's more than qualified of being a head coach in this league, and I'm happy to have him, and we're lucky to have him. We're fortunate to have him as our defensive coordinator. So, but yeah, I'm glad he's back.
When we talked to him at the Senior Bowl, he had already done his full self-scouting and gone through the entire defense. How much of maybe this shift up front is a result of maybe what he saw within that process and maybe proposed going forward?
Yeah, I think that was the biggest part of it. It was just doing let's do a fair assessment of ourselves, and he looked at it, and he brought it to me. Now, some of this had already begun a little bit after the bye week. There was a little bit of just tinkering. Now, not that much, but that was kind of the starting point of how, what do we need to do a few things differently. And then once the season ended, to go back and look at it, and that was, he felt like this was what we needed to do. And I agreed with him wholeheartedly. I think this is the right thing for us. And look, that's a ton of credit to him, and not saying that, I think it's just we're trying to do what we say we're going to do. And because there was, some of the things that I believe in and AG believed in were much more, if you will, the 3-4 Okie, those 3 down packages, Pittsburgh Steelers, a little bit more of the, and not that we still don't live in that world, but for us personnel-wise, what was right and what is right is kind of what we're going to start moving to. And I think because it suits us well, and and the ability to adapt for us as coaches and to help our players be the best that they can be, I think is what we're about. I mean, that's what we said we're going to be about. Because those guys win games, we don't. It's the players.
Looking at the other side of the ball, obviously with the caveat it's still early in OTAs, but I wonder what you're seeing from the offensive line and just maybe their confidence or leadership from that unit.
Yeah, there again, it's early. I mean, I could say there's nothing that would be glaring in the wrong direction at this point, but it's a good group. I know that. Those guys have all been here. They've been here since phase 1 started, and they're working together. Frank and Jonah and Sewell and Big V, all of them, Decker. So they've been working well together, and it's a veteran group. It's a group that's pretty tough. They're pretty smart. They work well together, and so I think just having them around has been good and working together.
Practice squad expansion going up to 16 players. I mean, does that change how you look at maybe some of the more green, untapped guys this offseason? Maybe have an extra spot for them or something? Just curious on those changes.
To be honest with you, I haven't even, thought that far into it. But certainly we're going to be looking for guys that we know can help us during the year. You're always going to want a few that, man, you're like, these guys may not be ready, but, man, we may hit something down the road. You're always going to want those guys, and you're always looking for those. They're not going to be ready now, but, man, a year or two, this could be. But then I think a majority of those guys you're banking on the fact they're going to help you win this year. And they're really backups that didn't quite make the 53, but they're good enough to be your backups and to help you get in games, and they can sustain for a game or two and kind of hold the line, if you will.
When you look at it more, John, what gives you confidence that the linebackers on this roster are going to perform at the level that you and AG will expect?
Oh, it's easy. Competition. That's why. Because out of all those guys we have in that room, it's going to be a bloodbath in there. There's a ton of experience. There's a ton of youth. There's a ton of energy, and I think when you combine it with the type and on top of that, every one of those guys that's in there is competitive. They're highly competitive, and I just think, man, when we come out with the finished product and the 2 or 3 that are left standing, or there'll be more than that. But my point is, I think we're going to be excited about those guys.
And Dan, just as you're in your second year of OTAs with this team, it's early on in the offseason program, but has anything changed from last year to this year as far as your attention to detail or expectations early on?
No, I would say that just from my own approach, I know that, and it's hard to do because there again, we got to be smart with how we practice this time of year. You can't be in pads. You got to be careful being physical, anything to to where guys are impeding each other, all those things. But yet, I do know that I want to get us in more competitive settings early, and we're actually going to kind of start that today, just situationally. kind of the end of the team period is getting in 2 minute, getting into half, into game, and just a couple of things to go ahead and put us in these a little bit more pressure situations. So that would be one change that I know I identified as we got to get to that earlier. We got to start pressing our guys earlier and feel a little bit more pressure earlier and see how we respond or get comfortable with being uncomfortable, if you will.
Really quickly, following up on John's question, Julian Aquara, is he in that mix in that linebacker room, or more the line? How do you see his role?
Yeah, he is. Yes, he is. We consider him a linebacker. He is a hybrid. We consider him in base as a linebacker, more Sam linebacker on the edge. And then in sub or in nickel, he becomes more that defensive end, or third down, he could become that, kind of that spinner, stand-up X player. So, but just as far as if you're rolling out base, he's one of the guys competing to be, our edge Sam linebacker.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Dan.
Okay.
Good